All right, we are back for the next subsection for our cybercrime course, section 5. I just wanted to have a short kind of subsection in here talking about two of the most famous computer criminals in American history. And these two are really kind of emblematic and representative of these two different periods and two different philosophies and worldviews when it comes to computer crime and hacking in general, right? So the first one here is Kevin Mitnick, and he's probably the most famous cyber criminal of all time, right? This guy was huge. He was all over the newspapers. They even made a movie about his career and his ultimate arrest. Spoiler alert. But this guy, he was obsessed with computers from an early age, and he got really, really good at a process called social engineering, which we'll talk about a little bit more later in this section. But social engineering, just to be brief, is kind of the art of conning people via phone or computer into doing what you want them to do, right? And he would use these social engineering skills to gain access to computers and systems and information that people thought were impossible to get into. He would do things like, break into computer companies and steal the plans for their latest and greatest technology. He would, he could do dang near anything. I mean, this guy was the hacker's hacker. And interestingly, he was only in it for kind of the information, the knowledge, the data, the trophy, the thing he could show his hacking buddies and say, hey, I hacked into that company, here's proof, right? He never actually made a dime off of any of his computer hacks. He could have stolen credit card numbers, he could have stolen bank accounts, but he never did. Now, he gave himself services for free that he should have paid for, but, he wasn't making millions of dollars stealing people's money. He wasn't selling this stolen information to the highest bidder. He was doing it for kind of the love of the information and just to see if he could do it, right? He always had to have kind of jobs to be able to pay rent and utilities and all those things. He was never kind of living off of his ill-gotten gains. And all through the 80s and early 90s, he was kind of the most wanted cyber criminal in the country. But he was hilariously able to kind of keep track of the FBI investigating him, so he could always kind of stay one step ahead. Until 96, he finally got arrested, finally went on trial. And it was kind of a really ridiculous situation. The prosecutor in the case argued that he could whistle into a telephone and launch nuclear weapons, which is absolutely ridiculous, but that was the kind of cultural belief that people had about hackers thanks to things like war games and hackers and those cultural representations of computer crime. So when he was finally put away for, I can't remember, his exact sentence was 5 years or something like that. For a lot of it, he was kept in solitary confinement because they were so afraid of what he could do, even with like a prison telephone. Finally, he got out. He left prison in the early 2000s and had a really amazing career as both a speaker and a penetration tester, i.e. a hacker, but hacking for good. Companies would hire him to test their security. And then he would, break into their security using all these different techniques he had learned, and then write up a report and say, here's, you're weak on this, you need to change your training about this, you need to fix this problem. And made a bunch of money. And personally, my favorite part of his post-prison career was the books he wrote. Because he wrote, I think, at least 4 books, maybe more. But my personal opinion, my favorite of which was his autobiography, which is called Ghost in the Wires. Really amazing book, tells all about kind of how he did what he did, some of the social engineering techniques he used, and all these different activities that obviously were illegal and ultimately got him arrested. But it's really fascinating, really interesting, really amazing book. honestly, if you're into this kind of subject, want to read more about this, please, please, please pick up Kevin Mitnick's books. And of course, finally, just a couple years ago, he unfortunately passed away. So he is no longer alive and won't be writing any more books. But the books he did write are incredibly interesting and valuable, and just honestly fascinating and really great reads. So he kind of exemplifies this early hacker mindset of, search for information, unlock the locked. Anything that's hidden is obviously interesting, and that's something you should pay attention to. So you need to kind of go after that and find those things that they don't want you to find. And your value as a hacker is all about what you're able to do, not how much money you make, not your race or your gender or anything like that. It's all about what you're capable of doing with a computer and a network and a telephone, right? Contrasted with Max Butler, aka Max Ray Vision, aka the Iceman. Now, this guy started off at a young age as one of the good guys, as a penetration tester, as somebody who hacked for good. This is kind of the reverse of the Kevin Mitnick story. He started off doing jobs fixing people's computer security. But he kind of took it too far. He would do things that were illegal, and they were kind of well-intentioned in a lot of cases, but they were still illegal. So he would do things like create viruses designed to fix bugs in computer programs. Which, again, the intention there is good. You're trying to fix problems. You're trying to fix security holes. But you're not allowed to do that via a computer virus, right? So these and other illegal activities got him arrested. And he spent a little bit of time in prison where he met a man, Chris something. I can't remember the guy's name. But once they were released from prison, these two teamed up. And these two became a huge power team, criminal enterprise, where Max would steal credit card numbers, steal credit card information, and then his partner Chris would print fake credit cards and give them to a team of people to go out and buy expensive stuff on these stolen credit cards. And then, they would usually either return that merchandise for cash or sell it on, eBay or some other online auction site to turn it into cash, and made gazillions of dollars off of these stolen credit card numbers. And in fact, Max got so good at stealing credit cards that he decided he was going to just kind of sell credit card numbers to anybody who wanted to come and pay for it. And the problem was there were already a few websites where you could go on the dark web and buy and sell credit card numbers. And he decided he wanted to be the only game in town. So one of his biggest kind of most famous crimes was he went to these 4 credit card selling websites, stole all their customer information, all their user information, shut those 4 down, and created his own website that he called the Carter's Market, and imported all of the user information from those other 4. So now if you were a user of any of those 4, that website was down, it didn't work anymore, but you could just use your username and password to log into this new one run by Max Butler, and he kind of had a hostile takeover of the entire market, if you will. And his website, the Carter's Market, became kind of the place, the one really big place to go to buy and sell these illegally obtained, stolen credit card numbers. And again, made bunches and bunches of money, but eventually was caught, was arrested. In 2007, he received a 13-year prison sentence, which at the time was the longest sentence ever given for a cybercrime in the United States, maybe even the world. And this is kind of the as of recording, he has just recently kind of gotten out of prison, finished serving his sentence. But he's kind of emblematic and representative of this kind of newer generation of hacker, right? No longer in it for the information, no longer in it for the kind of intellectual curiosity of it. They're in it for the money. They want to steal. They want to take. They want to deprive other people. As anybody who's ever had their credit card stolen, you know, I've had mine stolen 2 or 3 times over my life. And it's, you know, even in the best case scenario, it's pretty annoying having to work with the credit card company and get that shut down and then get a new card mailed to you and do this whole thing. Even at the easiest, it's annoying. But at its worst, it can be just take over your life, having to shut down new accounts that people create, and, you know, identity theft and all these kind of related subjects are really no joke. They're a really big issue, and he kind of didn't care. He didn't even think about the victims. He was just, well, I can do this, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make money at it. So that's kind of really the place that cybercrime has really gone since, especially kind of the turn of the millennium. But it was kind of a gradual shift over the past 30, 40 years. To now, this is kind of what we think of when we think of hackers and cyber criminals. Now, we're once again going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with the end of this section.